Todd Bertuzzi's attack on Steve Moore, 2004. March 8, 2004. Vancouver Canucks versus Colorado Avalanche. This wasn't just a hockey incident. It was a crime caught on camera. Todd Bertuzzi, seeking revenge for a hit on his teammate weeks earlier, stalked Avalanche forward Steve Moore around the ice. When Moore wasn't looking, Bertuzzi grabbed his jersey from behind, sucker punched him in the head, and drove his face into the ice. The result was catastrophic. 3 fractured neck vertebrae, a severe concussion, and facial lacerations. Moore never played hockey again. His career was over at age 25. Bertuzzi received a match penalty on the spot. The NHL suspended him for the remainder of the season and playoffs, 20 games total. When the 2004-2005 season was canceled due to the lockout, his suspension stretched to 17 months. But the consequences went far beyond hockey. Bertuzzi faced criminal charges in Vancouver, pleading guilty to assault causing bodily harm. Moore filed a $38 million civil lawsuit that dragged on for a decade before finally settling out of court. This wasn't just a bad penalty. It was a moment that forced hockey to confront its culture of revenge and vigilante justice. The code that players had lived by for decades suddenly looked barbaric when its consequences were so clearly displayed. Marty McSorley's slash on Donald Brashear, 2000. If Bertuzzi's attack was shocking, Marty McSorley's assault on Donald Brashear was something from a horror movie. February 21, 2000, Boston Bruins versus Vancouver Canucks. With just seconds left in a game the Bruins were losing, McSorley skated up behind Brashear and swung his stick like a baseball bat, striking Brashear in the temple. Brashear collapsed immediately, his head slamming against the ice, causing a seizure and severe concussion. The arena fell silent. Players from both teams looked on in disbelief. McSorley received a match penalty. The NHL suspended him for the remaining 23 games of the season, then extended it to a full calendar year, effectively ending his career. But like Bertuzzi, McSorley's actions transcended hockey discipline. He was charged with assault with a weapon in Vancouver court. The trial made international headlines as prosecutors argued that consent to play hockey wasn't consent to be attacked with a weapon. McSorley was found guilty and sentenced to 18 months probation. The case established a crucial legal precedent. The ice is not a lawless zone. The rules of society still apply, even in professional sports. Chris Simon's stomp on Jarkko Ruutu, 2007. By 2007, you'd think players would have learned from Bertuzzi and McSorley. Chris Simon apparently hadn't gotten the message. December 15, 2007, New York Islanders versus Pittsburgh Penguins. Simon, already on thin ice after receiving a 25-game suspension earlier that year for a stick-swinging incident, took things to another level. After a collision with Penguins forward Jarkko Ruutu, Simon deliberately stomped on Ruutu's leg with his skate blade, one of the most dangerous weapons in sports. The league's response was swift and severe, a 30-game suspension, the longest non-lifetime ban in NHL history at that time. Simon forfeited nearly $300,000 in salary. What made this case unique was the aftermath. Simon took a leave of absence to receive counseling, acknowledging that his repeated violent behavior required intervention beyond just suspensions. It was one of the first times the league and a team publicly recognized that extreme violence might indicate deeper issues requiring professional help. Dale Hunter's hit on Pierre Turgeon, 1993 playoffs. April 28, 1993, Game 6 of the playoffs between the Washington Capitals and New York Islanders. Pierre Turgeon of the Islanders stole the puck from Dale Hunter and scored the series-clinching goal. As Turgeon began celebrating with his arms raised, Hunter blindsided him with a vicious check from behind, driving Turgeon's head into the boards. Turgeon suffered a separated shoulder and missed most of the next playoff round. Hunter received a match penalty and was suspended for 21 games, the longest suspension in NHL history at that time. What made this hit particularly egregious was its timing. The play was over. The goal had been scored. The series was decided. Hunter's hit wasn't part of the game. It was pure frustration and retaliation after the whistle. Years later, Turgeon revealed that Hunter approached him and claimed he didn't realize Turgeon had scored. Nobody believed that excuse. The incident remains one of the most notorious cheap shots in playoff history. Jesse Boulet-Reis's cross-check on Ryan Kesler, 2007. Jesse Boulet-Reis's cross-check on Ryan Kesler, 2007. October 10, 2007. Philadelphia Flyers versus Vancouver Canucks. Jesse Boulet-Reis, a Flyers enforcer, cross-checked Ryan Kesler directly in the face with his stick during a stoppage in play. Kesler, who wasn't engaged with Boulet-Reis and wasn't looking, dropped to the ice immediately. Boulet-Reis received a match penalty and a 25-game suspension. tying the record for the second longest suspension in modern NHL history. What made this case particularly troubling was Boul Reese's history. While playing junior hockey, he had been charged with assault for a similar incident where he swung his stick at an opponent's head. The NHL's severe punishment reflected both the brutality of the cross-check and Boul Reese's pattern of dangerous behavior. The suspension sent a clear message. The league was taking a zero-tolerance approach to deliberate head contact, especially with sticks. This represented a significant shift in how the NHL viewed player safety, foreshadowing the stricter rules on head contact that would come in later years. The Good Friday Massacre, 1984. April 20th, 1984. Game 6 of the playoffs between the Quebec Nordiques and Montreal Canadiens. This wasn't just a game misconduct, it was a complete breakdown of order that resulted in 11 ejections and 252 penalty minutes. The chaos began at the end of the second period with a bench-clearing brawl. Players paired off all over the ice. Quebec's Louis Slayer knocked Montreal's John Hamel unconscious with a sucker punch. Montreal's Mario Tremblay broke Peter Stastny's nose. Officials struggled to regain control, separating players and assessing penalties. But the situation deteriorated further when players returned for the third period warm-up. As ejected players heard the penalty announcements, they decided to take some guys with them, sparking a second massive brawl. The Good Friday Massacre, as it became known, highlighted a systemic failure in hockey's disciplinary structure. Referee Bruce Hood was criticized for not immediately communicating ejections to the teams, allowing ejected players to return to the ice for the third period. This incident remains the most infamous episode in the heated Battle of Quebec, a rivalry that defined an era of hockey in the province. The Richard Riot, 1955. March 13, 1955. Montreal Canadiens versus Boston Bruins. Maurice Rocket Richard, the NHL's biggest star and a hero to French Canadians, got into an altercation with Boston's Hal Laycoe. During the scuffle, linesman Cliff Thompson tried to restrain Richard, who punched Thompson twice. NHL President Clarence Campbell suspended Richard for the remainder of the season and playoffs, a devastating blow to Montreal's championship hopes. 4 days later, Campbell attended a game at the Montreal Forum. His presence provoked outrage among Canadiens fans, who pelted him with food, programs, and even a tear gas bomb. The game was forfeited, and fans poured into the streets, smashing windows, looting stores, and overturning cars. The Richard Riot caused an estimated $100,000 in damage, equivalent to over $1 million today, and resulted in 100 arrests. But it was more than just a sports riot. It became a symbol of French-Canadian resistance against perceived Anglo domination. This remains the only case in hockey history where a disciplinary action triggered significant civil unrest, demonstrating how deeply the sport is woven into cultural identity. Marty McSorley's illegal stick, 1993 Stanley Cup Final. June 3, 1993, Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final between the Los Angeles Kings and Montreal Canadiens, with the Kings leading 2-1 and just 1 minute 45 seconds left in regulation. Montreal coach Jacques Darmers made a bold move. He called for a measurement of Marty McSorley's stick, suspecting the curve of the blade exceeded the legal limit. Officials measured the stick and confirmed it was illegal. McSorley received a 2-minute penalty and a game misconduct for equipment violation. The consequences were immediate and series-altering. Montreal pulled their goalie for a 6-on-4 advantage and scored the tying goal 32 seconds later. They won in overtime, tying the series 1-1 instead of falling behind 2-0. The Canadiens went on to win the next 3 games and capture the Stanley Cup. What might have happened if McSorley's stick had been legal? We'll never know, but this technical infraction directly changed the course of hockey history. McSorley later admitted he had been using the illegal stick all season. The Canadiens had been planning this move, studying which Kings players used illegal sticks and waiting for the perfect moment to call for a measurement. Tom Webster's stick throw at referee Kerry Fraser, 1991. November 12, 1991. Los Angeles Kings versus Detroit Red Wings. Kings head coach Tom Webster, furious with referee Kerry Fraser over a call, threw his stick onto the ice, striking Fraser in the skates. Webster received a game misconduct and was subsequently suspended for 12 games. At the time, the longest suspension ever given to an NHL coach. While not as violent as player incidents, Webster's action represented a direct challenge to the authority of officials. The severity of the punishment demonstrated that the league viewed physical acts against referees, regardless of intent to injure, as attacks on the fundamental integrity of the game. This incident established that coaches are held to an even higher standard than players when it comes to respecting officials, as they're expected to set an example for their team. Andrew Shaw's homophobic slur, 2016. April 19, 2016. Playoff game between the Chicago Blackhawks and St. Louis Blues. After being assessed a penalty, Blackhawks forward Andrew Shaw was caught on camera shouting a homophobic slur toward the ice while in the penalty box. He also made an inappropriate gesture toward the officials. Shaw received a game misconduct, was suspended for one playoff game, fined $5,000 for the gesture, and mandated to undergo sensitivity training. This case marked an important evolution in hockey discipline. The NHL explicitly stated that the emotion of the moment cannot and will not be a mitigating factor for discriminatory language, establishing that verbal misconduct would be treated with the same seriousness as physical infractions. The swift public condemnation from advocacy groups like the You Can Play Project highlighted how social expectations around sports had changed. Hockey was no longer just policing physical violence, it was acknowledging its responsibility to promote inclusivity and respect.